don't leave anything indefinitely. When you were here, when you were a little girl, I used to give you a bath, I used to look after you, I was doing well then, I used to work, I lost my job, we're retired, our kids are struggling. So please, already you have been very nicely emotionally blackmailed. If I'm going to help you, it's when I have and I'm able to. It's not a long-term thing. There must be an end to it, because that is just accepting behavior that is not acceptable. You cannot have that sense of entitlement long-term by having more kids. Set the boundary early on, even if it's to your parents. Some parents actually enable this attitude. They say to their kids, oh, please don't embarrass me. Embarrass me? I will embarrass myself and I'll embarrass the whole family if you're expecting me. I want to talk about something that I have been reluctant to talk about for a while, because it's a very sensitive topic and it gets people very agitated most times. But hey, it's talking about black tax, guys. Black tax. Okay, so before I dive in, hello, if you see me for the first time, my name is Lulu and I'm an immigrant in the UK. I'm an African immigrant in the UK, and on this channel I share a lot of things that I've learned, tips, things that I wish I knew, and just what I'll tell my younger self since I turned 40, more especially on succeeding abroad. This video will kind of just give you guys an insight into how to break free from the so-called black tax. I don't even know who gave this name, but anyway, let's straight into the video. Most times I like to talk with facts, and black tax originally came from South Africa. And it's a term, this is from the internet, that refers to money that black workers, especially professionals and other high income earners, give to their parents, siblings, or other family members, often out of obligation or a deep ingrained sense of family responsibility. This definition is actually quite mild and doesn't really reflect what black tax is referred to nowadays. When you use the word tax, what comes to mind is a payment that we often don't have a choice to make. So it's like you're forced to pay this money. Nobody really likes to give up their wages every month. You have to, but you don't like to. And the other aspect is you don't have a choice. So those are the two things. We pay taxes every month without even thinking. So when you're talking about how much you earn, you usually don't include taxes, because you don't have that sort of free will to choose not to pay tax one month. So that's why the whole topic of black tax leaves a bad taste in most people's mouths. But what is used a lot nowadays is for immigrants who have left their countries, are doing well, and feel like there's a sense of an obligation that they need to keep up regularly to their family members. Okay. Whew. Let me tell you guys what I think. There's two things about black tax. You can look at life generally positively, or you can choose to look at life negatively. Okay, I thrive on positivity. So sometimes even in a bad situation, I try to spin it round. Black tax is also looked at in some communities as a pride thing. You know, there's some cultures, especially like if you're an Igbo from Nigeria, there is pride when you've left your village, you've done well, you've succeeded, and you can maybe build a family home for yourself and your siblings and your parents. That's pride, and that is a positive look or a positive spin, because your parents often will think that my child has been trained, has left, and will come back and build a befitting home. So wherever you are when you're working hard, you have that at the back of your mind. Times that you feel like you cannot be bothered, you think about the responsibility. That is the way to look at black tax, with the glass half full. If you want to look at the glass half empty, what you'll say is black tax is holding you down. Black tax is making your hard work seem like it doesn't exist. black tax is making you feel like you're being exploited, that things that will dive deeper. But I just wanted to get this out of the way, that the connotation or the way black tax is generally looked at is as a negative thing. But in this particular video, I want to just share how most people, or how I have managed not to really pay this. And my circumstances, by the way, is not the same as everybody else. So we have different circumstances, family dynamics, but there are certain characteristics that I want to share that if you feel this way, then definitely it's not positive. Okay, it's not giving you the kick up the backside that you need to succeed if you're abroad, or if you're in the cities and you're expected to, if you're doing well. One thing that we all miss out is black tax is mostly used for people who have done well, and that is a good thing to celebrate. Okay, but what this does with most people is that they cannot even feel free to share their achievements. They feel like when they're doing well, they cannot tell their immediate family because they'll take advantage. That is when you know that this is past a positive thing. It becomes an obligation. It becomes a very, very negative sort of fuel. And when you cannot even share with your family that you've had a promotion at work, you've graduated from this place, because you start feeling guilty that you're doing well, that is not good for anybody's mental health. And it doesn't even give you the motivation to want more, because you're thinking the more you want, the more you make, and the more ambitious you are. Certain people in some places just sit down and are expecting you to look after them. That is a problem. The other sign that you might need to stop is when you don't have any plans for yourself, and it seems to be centered around your family. They'll ask you that, oh, your brother has 3 kids and he's struggling this month to send them to school. It's September. The kids are back to school. Nobody's asking you if you have your own child. Nobody's asking you when you're going to have your kids, because there's a part of them that says, please settle all of your siblings first before you even think of having a child. You find yourself in situations like that, I can tell you that you might be getting into a problem, because nobody cares about your well-being. Nobody cares about your ambitions. Nobody cares about your goals. Nobody cares about what you need to focus on. It becomes everybody else. If you find yourself in that situation, I can tell you that it is toxic. And I did a separate video about being an immigrant and the toxic fuel to succeed. Where does that come from? And black tax is one of them. I'm going to put that video, so if you want to have a look, feel free and watch it. Another characteristic which is very unassuming is when you have that guilt when you've succeeded. You feel guilty when you're doing well, because you're thinking, I'm doing well, but I have this far relative who is not able to eat 3 square meals, or who is not able to do this and do that. Or if they find out that I've bought myself this, that I've treated myself to this maybe outfit that I've been wanting, you cannot even enjoy your things that you have. It means that it is not positive, and it is coming from a somewhat negative place. The other characteristic to look out for is if you start resenting your close family members. And that is something a lot of people face, because I've watched a few people talk about this, and you get to the point where you don't even know when you started avoiding them, when you start avoiding phone calls, when you see them succeed. So you can have this particular uncle who you've helped, and the uncle always comes to you looking miserable, appearing like he's in melancholy, appearing like he's about to lose his home. And then a few maybe months later, you see him saying, oh, my child bought me this car. And you've helped this uncle for years, and you keep still helping. And the uncle's kids are now okay, and he's still asking you for money. You tend to resent your family members, because it's not coming from a place where you genuinely want to give. It's come from pressure. It's come from guilt. It's come from emotional blackmail. Another point that should not be neglected is when you start stalling your own progress. This is really one that a lot of people can resonate with. You might be at a point where you have a choice, right, to start your own family, but you're thinking that you have 8 siblings, and if you start your family, it means that you would not be that same person who was available to give, to be present, to be the family philanthropist. So you decide to stall your progress in life. You decide to maybe start a family in 2 years so that your last sibling would have finished university. That is toxic and that is not positive. And I'm saying all of this so that if any of these things that I've shared, if it touches a nerve or rings a bell or it makes you feel like this is what I'm going through, then you want to watch the things that I will suggest that you can do to break this cycle. The first thing that I'll say is, please, don't leave anything indefinitely. Okay, that might be difficult. Let me break that down. If there's any projects, okay, or if somebody comes to you, let's just give a scenario that your auntie approaches you and says, my niece, when you were here, when you were a little girl, I used to give you a bath, I used to look after you, I was doing well then, I used to work, I lost my job, we're retired, our kids are struggling, so please, already you have been very nicely emotionally blackmailed to even feel like, okay, let me listen because this auntie did everything for me, so I have to pay back. That already is a sign, but we've talked about the things, to the red flags. And you'll say to yourself, okay, what can I do? And she says, I'm struggling to feed the family. What I'll suggest you do is ask her if she has a project in mind. Don't just agree to help her indefinitely, because that is a recipe for disaster, because you'll be doing that monthly, and instead of her trying to learn how to actually catch fish, you will be giving the fish straight to her. Try to always give a business solution instead of giving them money, because they become a lot less pushful, they become lazy, and they start depending on you fully. I want you guys to think about this. If there's somebody who every month you need to feed the money to feed their families, you're not helping them, you are enabling them. There's a difference between being a helper and enabler to laziness and complacency. Identify which you are. Give them a business to do so that they're self-sufficient. So people have even gone as far as give money, don't lend money, and don't expect it back, so that they can get self-sufficient and forget about you. The key thing to identify is if you are enabling or helping. It's okay to help, and I'm not doing this video to say stop helping, because a lot of people get satisfaction in giving. A lot of people prefer to, I personally, when I give, I feel good. I feel better when I give than when I receive. So there's that aspect, of course, where you believe that you want to be able to give, and that's the reason why you've been blessed. You are able to provide, and it gives you a deep sense of satisfaction. But when you're enabling laziness and a culture of begging, because I'm going to just go a bit more specific now, I feel like our continent, the African continent in general, has bred a society of professional beggars. People who will do anything to not do anything but earn. So some people who on the 23rd of every month, or they even know when people get paid, they'll have a list of people that they'll beg from. They'll send the same message. My child needs to take medication, they're unwell. My child's fees has this, blah, blah, blah. They'll come up with the same story to everybody on the phone list. They have able-bodied, they have internet availability, they can actually send these messages, but they choose not to work. They choose to be a liability. If you keep giving this person money every month, you are enabling the nonsense and the society full of lazy so-and-sos. And I say this with little or no apology, because it's just not acceptable to have an environment or continue to harbor behavior, because it's not about you giving. It's about what are you teaching your generations and your other family members. How do you start building wealth? If you want to really break this chain, what I do is, if you have other siblings who are well-to-do, the thing that has worked for a lot of people is that if there's this particular family member who seems to be a liability to many people, create a group. Create a group so that everybody that they ask from are all in the same environment and are aware of what they're doing. So people don't have shame, but it's not really about shaming. It's about stop the exploitation. Because when they ask and you have a group and you say, actually, every month we put you on so and so for the next few weeks or next few months to on your feet to help your kids, so that you don't get from everybody, because then everybody's contribution is less because it goes into a pot. I know somebody who told me that she could never ever travel because all of her siblings were abroad. This is years ago. She had the best designer gear. She had the best clothes. Everything that a lot of us could imagine. She had it back home because she had about 5 siblings and she was not even doing anything with herself. And thought of her coming abroad and working hard, she was not interested because she makes more from begging. You're not helping her. You think that that doesn't matter because you're giving her $50 and you can afford more. No, you're making her to be reliable in the future, maybe on a man or on she just doesn't have any sort of ambition. And then if she has kids, what is she telling these children? Because the thing about generational wealth is it starts from you being pushful. It starts from you being ambitious. It starts from you showing your kids what it is to want more. And once you are able to provide more for them, they'll in turn be able to provide more for the kids. And then in generations to come, like a family, you guys get a lot more self-sufficient. And I don't know how that cannot be a wonderful thing. It really beggars belief. So the way to do it is create an avenue where there is transparency with everybody who is chipping in, so that there's no possibility to go and ask A, come and ask B, go and ask C, ask D, and then the day you guys all talk you guys realize that you've been scammed for months. So that's something that works for a lot of families. Put it together and be transparent and give them a timeline. Don't just be there to provide for them indefinitely. However, there is a clause to that. If it's your parents, I feel like you owe your parents a lot more. That's my personal opinion. I know that there are people who say they did nothing for me. I'm saying about most people, okay, there's always an anomaly. They probably are retired now and don't have any source of income. Or better still, you can open a business for your parents as opposed to sending them, say, $50 a month, $100 a month, or $200. Put a bit more in, open them a business, because what that does is not only the money, it's something that is easy and stress-free because it keeps them alert. My mom, when she retired 8 years ago, my kids gave her a better lease of life because she realized that, okay, when she was around my kids, she felt younger because she was more active. Her brain was not dead and she could think, she could help them with homework. Others back home, because mom was always in the UK with me and my dad, others will want to open a little store just to be able to get little in here and there, not for the money only, but for the fact that it gave them something to do. The other thing that you can do to avoid this black tax is please set boundaries very early on. When you first of all arrive, if you're back home and you leave, you go to the city or you come abroad, set the boundaries early. Accept what you can accept and decline what you cannot accept early on. I've always said that when you start a trend and you stop it, it's harder. Just try this, okay? Do a gesture. Call a family member and say, oh, I'm so grateful for all you did for me, and I want to bless you with some money. And you give them £1,000. They will jubilate, they will bless you, they will thank you, and then try maybe in the next 2 months and send them $50. They will not even get a message on your phone to say thank you. So set the boundaries early on in every aspect. Make sure that you make it clear that if you are having kids, because what our culture promotes is people just have kids, and I'm not one who has one or two or three. I have a big family, but I don't remember asking anybody. But you have people who clearly don't have a trade. They have always struggled, and then they'll go ahead and have more kids. And they expect that you, out of your goodwill, because you are God sent, you'll have to look after the children. They're so happy to send you pictures that I've had another child, and they're just bringing children into the world. Every year they have 10 kids, and then they expect that they'll go to 10 of their relatives to sponsor each child. That already, I'm going to set a boundary right there, that if I'm going to help you, when I have and I'm able to, it's not a long-term thing. There must be an end to it, because that is just accepting behavior that is not acceptable. You cannot have that sense of entitlement long-term by having more kids. Set the boundary early on, even if it's to your parents. Some parents actually enable this attitude. They say to their kids, oh, please don't embarrass me. Embarrass me? I will embarrass myself and I'll embarrass the whole family if you're expecting me to just sit down and accept that some people are not going to ever move a limb, but expect to eat. Because some parents, because of their bragging rights with their brothers in the village, look like your child is doing well, they actually even enable this by going into, when there's a death celebration, they go and pledge the most. There's a wedding. Set the boundaries with the people that you love, and always decide who is family, because we have very large extended families. So say what your point is. If it's just your nuclear family, say it early on. If you're going to maybe go to cousins and grandparents, say it on and draw it at that. If something happens, I have two exceptions to this. If I can afford it and somebody who is not even family contacts me for two things. One, if you have a health problem that I can help, because health is life and health is so important, guys. I have shared about how this last year was tough for me as a family, and anybody who has a health thing, I feel for them. I've always done, but more so now. You can always help if you have to save your life and they cannot afford it. That's different, and the human in you will always do this, and doesn't have to be family, could be anybody. People are very philanthropic by nature, generally in our communities, and they'll always come true. But if it feels like you are obliged to, feel coerced, if you feel like you don't have a choice, then there is a problem. But things like orphans, kids who are very smart but cannot be sponsored, those are different things. And the other third exception that I'll make is a business plan that is positive. If somebody came to me, somebody I knew, it doesn't even have to be family, and said, I have this business plan, please, I need so and so money that is realistic, that I feel like I'm sowing a seed not just for them but for the families. I'll rather do that than an auntie who says that her child is getting married and I have to contribute, or there is a death. When the person was alive, you did not help them with their hospital bills, but now that they're gone, you want to send money. I don't really pander to the gallery. I'll try to do things practical. So a business idea that I can afford, that will help to take away the headache in the future, a health emergency, or an educational need, either long-term or short-term. But generally, I think that in our culture, we need to be a lot firmer with the things that we'd accept from our family members. The other way that you can do to break free from this black tax is that if you're looking to help, always have a budget every month. Because if you don't have a budget, this goes even out of this point of black tax. But if you don't have a budget that you use monthly for many other things, you'll struggle. It's just discipline. Have a budget, and if you are one of those people who has an emergency fund, maybe you should consider helping family. I know that sounds very, very weird, but that is absolutely true, in the sense that you always have to remember that your far relatives might have an emergency, and you can keep a fund. I've talked about this in my past video, which I'm going to pin. Talked about money mistakes, and if you put aside money every month when it's quiet, you think about the times that you normally have to help, like maybe Christmas, or maybe when the school year starts. If you've budgeted £20 a month, or £100 a month, or $50 a month, when you put that on in that fund, whatever you've got there is what you have to spend for the month or the year. Don't dig deeper, because just setting that rule means that you're able to say one word which has literally 2 alphabets. No. You need to learn to say no. Emotional blackmail is a put off, and it's a turn off that a lot of our parents use, a lot of our relatives use. But I just thought that I'll share my perspective on this, and I hope that somebody who watches this, you can learn to think about yourself and the fact that if you don't start to build wealth for yourself, you're not able to help them. My mantra has been, I cannot pour from an empty cup. You need to fill your cup. You need to be able to get to a point where you are self-sufficient for you to be able to be helpful in any shape or form. And sometimes it's tough love to family members who are lazy. If you keep being nice, you're enabling them. You're enabling a culture of begging, a culture of laziness, a culture of not wanting to be pushful. I hope that this video kind of helps somebody. And if there are other ways that I've not mentioned, please share. How do you break this cycle of black tax? I want to hear from you. And if you found this video helpful, give us a like. It really helps with the algorithms, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. And if you of course like the content we share here, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.